Jenny Smith finds inspiration in cooking her family and her dog. Either Jenny Smith needs hunting down and arresting, or we might have a rogue comma that needs inserting. Hi there Space Cat Chums, it's me Jules, this week bringing you a Punctuation 101 and a few amusing illustrations as to why punctuation is really important. Some people think that life is too short for making sure punctuation is perfect. But the thing is, when you've got words written down, if you don't use punctuation properly, then it can lead to a completely different meaning to the one that you actually meant. This is why so many misunderstandings occur over social media and texting. It's really hard to tell the tone of a conversation when it's just words and you're not actually hearing the person's voice or seeing their face. And that's one of the reasons why you should be using punctuation. I'm going to group them together in like-minded usage. The first thing to grasp is to where to use your capital letters. Capital T, today is a great day. You must also capitalise people's names. As well as other proper nouns, like countries. Cities or place names. Nationalities. Companies, religions, political parties. If you're writing down mum, dad or grandma, grandpa, something like that, you only need to capitalise it if you're using it instead of their name, like as a form of address. Hi mum, how are you? But not if you're speaking about them. My mum says hi. Capital letter, no capital letter. We also capitalise the days of the week, the months and holidays, but not seasons. Monday, June, winter. Capital letters, not capital letter. You need to capitalise most of the words of a title. For example, the, capital letter, Chronicles, capital letter, not capital letter, of, capital letter, Narnia. So any of the little words, like and, of, or the, unless it begins the sentence, they don't need to be capitalised. And finally, some time periods are capitalised as well, like World War II or Middle Ages. But it might be something you need to look up if you're not sure. Full stops are used to end a sentence, but what is a sentence? A sentence normally has a noun and a verb. That's a naming word and a doing word. So the ball bounced is a sentence, but ball bounced or the ball is not. Our full stop or period, if you're American English, ends the sentence, or it can also be after an abbreviation. Mr. RSPCA. In the UK, that's the Royal Society for the Protection of Cruelty to Animals. Question marks indicate a direct question at the end of a sentence. For example, who sprayed the dog pink? You wouldn't use a question mark for an indirect question. Jane wondered, who sprayed the dog pink? It's kind of a question, but there's no need for a question mark there. Exclamation marks are used for emphasis. or to express someone's outcry. Jane screamed. I told you not to spray that dog pink. Exclamation marks have recently become much more popular to use, and it's very easy to fall into that trap of using way too many. My advice would be to only use one at a time, so we wouldn't put a second one in, for example. And as you go back through your writing, take out any exclamation marks where a different form of punctuation would look better. A rule of thumb is, if you've got a section, a paragraph, maybe a couple of paragraphs, if you've got more than 3 exclamation marks, you have got too many. I would argue that maybe the comma is the most useful piece of punctuation. Excuse the blackbird in the background. When we're learning to read and write, we're told that the comma is put there so that you know where to breathe. So that's quite a good thing to keep in the back of your mind. If you've ever had to read a sentence out loud like this, you'll know the use of a comma. Here we go. Jerry left the park and walked along Park Road and through the tunnel to Station Road, a long straight road that led to his house before turning left at the post box when he came across a letter that was on the floor addressed to Mr. Jones at 1 Cavendish Place. Phew, that really needs some commas. Commas are used to show a separation of elements within a sentence. They're also used to separate dates, numbers, and also if you're writing an email or a letter, the salutations. Dear Sir, comma. You might use one for direct address. Thanks for helping, Jane. If that comma wasn't there, it might read, thanks for helping Jane. Who was it who was helping Jane? In this context, we can see Jane is the person helping and we are thanking her. You can use commas to join and separate 2 completely separate sentences. We went for a walk. It was a hot day. So these are 2 sentences, and we could put a full stop in the middle and a capital letter here. But if we want to join these 2 to make it a bit more interesting, you can put a comma in the middle. Use commas for separating lists of things. Cheese, tomatoes, eggs. And separating lists or descriptions of things within a sentence. It was a long, hot, dry day. There's something called an Oxford comma, and I'm going to make a separate video about that at some point because it's a little bit more intricate to describe and explain. So if you are interested in punctuation and what an Oxford comma is, make sure you subscribe and ding that bell, and then it'll come up in your notifications when I've videoed it and it's ready to go. Semicolons are used to connect 2 or more separate clauses or sentences, but there must be a close connection between the 2 things. For example, Jane used a rude word. Semicolon, she knew her mum. No capital letter, would be cross. So these 2 things are connected. Jane using a rude word and her mother being cross are connected. However, if we were to put Jane used a rude word, semicolon, the sky was blue. There is no connection between these 2 things, so we wouldn't use a semicolon there. We would use a full stop and a capital letter. Semicolons can be used instead of connective words like and because and therefore. So the thing about semicolons to remember is there needs to be a connection between those 2 sentences or clauses that you are joining together. Colons have three main uses, besides being part of your digestive system. Don't get those things muddled up. You can use a colon after a word introducing something like an explanation. For example, Bob is studying 3 A-levels. Colon. English, philosophy, and classics. You can use colons between two independent clauses or sentences. The second adds a bit more information to the first. For example, I grabbed my coat. Colon. I was running late. So we could just have, I grabbed my coat, that would be fine, that would be a whole sentence that explains what's going on. But this second bit explains a bit about why perhaps I use the word grabbed instead of just I put on my coat. And last of all, it can be used for emphasis, like this. There was something she loved more than anything else in the world. Colon. Music. So this covers about half the punctuation that we would normally use. I'll be making a video on hyphens, dashes, brackets, speech marks, ellipses, and my favourite, apostrophes. So make sure you look out for that. Here are some funny misuses of punctuation. See if you can find out where the punctuation should go. If you'd like further artist tutorials, I have a variety of short courses that will help you. There are real-time sessions looking at painting, drawing and marker pens, among others. And if you're keen on producing your own book, there is a more in-depth course on what you need to know about self-publishing a book with illustrations. And that covers making key decisions, how to make layouts and dummy books, rhythm and pacing, as well as several tutorials on illustrating your book, and a look at the tech. You can either hop over to my website or join me on Patreon for more information. Go on, give it a go! Next time I will be looking at some really wonderful misuse of apostrophes. One of my favourite things to spot. Now I'm not saying I get it right every time, and I'm not saying that I don't ever make a mistake. But what I am saying is that if you are writing for a living, then it's down to you to make sure that you understand the basics of punctuation. And it's really, really worthwhile getting someone to proofread all of your work before it goes off to be printed or before you upload it to KDP. The best thing to do is to get a professional proofreader because they genuinely know what they're doing. I've fallen foul of this myself before, and it can be a very costly mistake, especially when you're starting out. Next week it will be the Great British Birdwatch in the UK, so I'll be doing a draw with me tutorial for a bird, but I haven't quite decided which one I'm going to do yet, so any ideas, drop a comment below. Right, so I'm off to weigh a whale in a whale weigh station, so I'll see you next time. Nanu nanu!